DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. It is time for the question of the morning. And in June, college football writers getting back to work, looking for something to write about. How about if you rank all the Big 12 football coaches?
Ready to go.
Garrett Armbrust ranked him. He's got Kyle Whittingham, number 1. He's got Kalani, number 5 in this 16-team league. Is this list accurate? Are you buying it? List radio cracking you up?
There's one other reason. Read some of the responses. See what you got.
Neil, who cares? Melody, must be a lifetime achievement calculation. Kalani should be higher.
Higher. Now, he has Gundy 4th.
Yes.
What do you mean, yes?
Yes, he does.
You looking at it?
No.
Then how do you know?
Because I looked at it last night.
Oh.
And I thought, as soon as I saw the question, before I went and looked at the list, I thought, okay, try to rank them. And I thought, well, you got two of the longest tenured coaches in college football. These guys have now been over 20 years at their schools, which is just unheard of in this era. Is he going to rank them 1-2? And he didn't. He ranked them 1-4. I thought they could be 1-2.
Well, yeah, they're 2 of the 3 longest right now. I think
Iowa
is the other one.
Yep.
Yeah. But they were a combined 2-16 in league last year.
I know. I did wonder how much they get dinged for last season. 2-16. They combined for 2 wins, and one of them was when they played each other.
Okay, how come they don't get dinged, but Dillingham gets praised?
Well, I thought that was one of the most interesting things is that Dillingham and Dion were miles apart on this list, and they both had 2 years in the Big 12. 1 year went really bad, and then both had massive turnarounds and went 7-2.
Dillingham's only had 1 year in the Big 12, but I get your point.
Yeah, 2 years on the job, right. 1 year in the Big 12, 1 year in the Pac-12. And so I was surprised they were that far apart. Especially Dion has the other time at Jackson State. And I did wonder, as I went through the list, a lot of these coaches obviously are going to have been head coaches. I mean, Dillingham had, he was a coordinator at a high-profile program, but a lot of these coaches
multiple high-profile
worked at smaller programs.
Florida State, Auburn, Oregon.
A lot of them worked at smaller programs and won there. And so, how much credit do you give there? Some programs are easier to win at than others. It seems more coaches have won at some of these programs, and the programs have been on top at their level for longer. Some of them were turnaround jobs at a lower level. As they tried to figure all that out.
Dillingham's come up with a new way. You can offer scholarships to underclassmen officially, that not the kids are going to be seniors, but the younger ones, June 15th. And they're doing a big thing. June 15th.
Having a party?
Is the day to be special. He says because they asked him about recruiting kids in Arizona. He just had media availability yesterday because he's constantly selling it. And he said, well, what we've been doing hasn't worked. And so now they're going to try something new. And we've got to get the top prospects. We haven't done it. It hasn't worked. So this is, and he says it hasn't worked in 30, 40 years. And I mean, yeah, that's what I've been saying for 30, 40 years.
So you're going to agree with Kenny Dillingham.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
And so I told the AD, if he gets the number 1 recruit, not this year, it's too late, but guys who are like freshmen and sophomores, gets the number 1 recruit that commits and actually plays, I told the AD I would give to the NIL, I would turn over my entire 401k.
No, you wouldn't.
Well, does that mean that I'm not confident he's going to get the number 1 guy?
I just don't think you're going to turn over all the money in your 401k.
Oh, I've got 3 other side hustles. I'll be
that
okay.
A kid.
I'll be okay. So I like his approach. Well, what we were doing wasn't working. Don't try to say, well, we'd like them, but some kids, they just want to. No. Admit it's a problem. It's a major issue. Admit it. That's the only way you're going to attack it. Instead of talking around it like all the other his predecessors have done for years, for 40 years. Well, no. We suck at it. We got to get better.
Let's do something new. The other stuff wasn't working.
Yeah. But, the number one thing that shocked me is nobody has asked, including you, who the freak is Garrett Armbrust? And why am I even putting this poll up there?
Because it's a list, and List Radio is funny.
I know, but this was all a big joke.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if somebody would say, who is Garrett Armbrust? I'm sure he's a nice young man. And his 1,600
He's got 1,600 followers. And he works for Fox Sports Knoxville as an intern. The picture on him is so baby-faced.
Nobody questioned who this guy is.
No, there's a list. Let's go. And we were literally told, List Radio is terrible. People love it.
Who the heck is Garrett Armbrust?
He's a dude who watches college football and wants to get in the media. And he looked around and thought, I'm going to put this list out there.
Didn't you? Why didn't you question it? We've been talking about 10 minutes now. I've been waiting for you to say, well, who's this guy?
Would have gotten to it eventually because I did wonder. But there was a ton of reaction. And you started right off with, read the reactions.
I know. I wanted to see if anybody said, who the heck is this guy?
They did not.
That's my point. That's why I said read the reactions. Who is this guy?
In their heads, I think a lot of football fans do this, so they just saw a list and gravitated, and, well, he's there, and I put it there. But I guess most football fans argue about it with their buddy, and who's that guy? But they argue about it anyway.
And put out your own list. We need to get Garrett Armbrust on. I mean, he's going to be somebody somewhere. You got to start out somewhere.
Placing Kleiman and Dillingham ahead of Mike Gundy is just bad ball knowledge.
Kleiman, I don't know about that one, though. I don't know. I might disagree on that.
Think winning a Sugar Bowl at K-State and getting them 20 games over 500 gets your attention?
It do. Yeah. I think he's really good.
Not everybody goes through K-State wins. That's why they had to go back to Bill Snyder a second time because you couldn't find another Bill Snyder.
Right.
Now maybe they have.
Right. I think, I'm very high on that guy. I'm actually very high on both the coaches in Kansas.
Not the easiest place to win. Not a ton of recruits. No. Not a ton of tradition.
And I think Leipold has done a very good job. Last year they had a number of close losses. But, obviously they had the big win to keep the Cougars out, and their stadium wasn't available the whole season, so that was sort of funky. So they'll be able to get through that. I like what he's done. I mean, that program it's just been a disgrace for so long. They had a little blip there under the one guy, chubby guy. I can't think of his name, but he's done very, very well at first for
Mangione?
No.
Mangione.
I think is it just Mangione?
Mangione?
Mangione was the
musician.
The NFL guy.
Oh, really? Okay. Run the names together. Mark, maybe?
I think Leipold, and you talk about winning at other places. Look at what he's done.
Mm.
I think he's good.
One at the D3 level.
Yeah. And Kalani, he's had 3 double-digit win seasons in the last 5 years.
Yep.
I think that is really overlooked. I think part of the reason it's really overlooked is that, the COVID year and who do they play?
COVID year and the conference shuffle.
On the 5-7 season, the first year. But it's like the COVID year doesn't count because a bunch of people told us the world was going to end if you played football. People wrote about it, the worst decisions that conferences ever made. I mean, it is because your political leanings dictated that you must say that, so you wrote it and said it. We understand that. But nobody at BYU died. Not one person died, and they played the whole season. But somehow it's discounted because they didn't play top-notch competition, as if Indiana played top-notch competition. And actually, they played 2 of them, and they got beat both times. They didn't beat anybody else.
You need the conference brand name. That seems to count for a lot.
But for BYU, it was just that season, because I agree with Kyle in that his season shouldn't have counted. That was a joke. But I don't think BYU's season was a joke. And so you look at the number of double-digit win seasons, just as they do in Indiana, you don't throw that back, man. That's hard to get no matter who you're playing, and they got it. So I still don't think Kalani gets the respect. I don't even think he gets the respect that he has earned within his own fan base.
Not enough hype?
Well, because Bronco was serious and Lavelle, who can say anything about him, and Kalani dances and shows emotion and is very personable. So he's not the rough, tough guy who's supposed to play his character rather than just be who he is.
Yeah, you can spin that thing around in circles, though. I mean, be who you are, and also you've got to relate to a younger generation that thinks differently.
But they don't think like it.
Can you be rough, tough drill sergeant? And I mean, he's not. Maybe that would work for somebody else.
And I know it's a real touchy subject, but he doesn't fit the certain character over here. And I wrote about that once, and oh my gosh, I got lit up. Well, where in the crap do you think I got it? I just didn't make it up.
He's got his fan base that hold that 4-9 and 17 and then 5-7 against him because they look at Lavelle, who only had one losing season.
So you got
years.
That going on there.
And
that first losing season, it was with coaches that
he didn't hire.
No,
he didn't hire that side of the ball.
Not at that point when they hire Grimes and I'm there and I get an athletic official get 2 inches from my face with his finger pointed out and said, "This is his hire."
Well, the other two of us were right there when that happened.
I do,
right?
but he said it in my face.
It was pretty funny.
He didn't say it in yours. He said it in mine. I know you two were flanked by me, as you usually are. I always have my staff with me in those situations, and
Your
you guys
staff.
were there.
We
but
got
he didn't
you.
say it to you. He said it to me. He was right. And they've done a lot better. But I still don't think he gets the level of respect that he deserves for the job that he's done. Now, this is a business that's great that you did it last year, but that doesn't mean squat when the ball kicks off this year.
No, we see that all the time. Coaches get fired after 2 bad seasons.
But I think, for Kyle and Gundy, it is a different situation because they have built up double the amount of time that Kalani has been there. Right. So it's fair for them to, certainly for Kyle, I'm not as close to the situation with Gundy. Gundy seems to thrive in some type of circus atmosphere. He seems to like that.
Combative by nature, and if he can't find it, he'll create it.
And Kyle's not interested in that.
He does it with the media. He does it with players.
All over the place. Right.
It's like he feeds off that somehow.
Right. He does,
yeah.
And Kyle has settled in, and he's got an assembly line of a football program that just churns it out year after year. It didn't happen last year. We understand that. But I don't think that it's going to be long-term by any stretch. I think they'll be fine this year. And in fact, I think this time next year, if he chooses to remain coaching, they'll be saying, "Oh, see, we told you." And then the national folks just love him, and they love to tell you that Utah is under-respected, but they're not. Every time, if I've got 15 guys telling me they're under-respected, that means they're respected.
Somebody needs to disrespect them for them to be disrespected. Yeah.
They rarely are. And we saw it with
to move Kalani higher than 5, who would you move him past?
It's not necessarily that case. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about at BYU. Okay. I'm not talking about some
the buzz
dumb
in our local community.
Yeah.
This should be a little louder for the guy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And you hear it. Oh man, we can get Jay Hill in there. Jay Hill's fine. Jay Hill's great. I've got no problem praising Jay Hill. But I don't think he deserves praise above Kalani. And you listen to the guys who work for Kalani, who matter the most, who are there on the inside.
They are in the building at 5 a.m.
And they tell me these things.
And they praise him.
Yes. And how great Jay Hill turned down at least one head coaching job. That is an absolute fact. When I've got people on the staff telling me he's gone.
Yeah. And I have a hard time ripping coaches, although this happens, and I get why it happens, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that the coach, he's not that good. His coordinator is, well, who hired the coordinator? You're supposed to hire good coordinators. And if you can't, hiring a good coordinator is good, but hire a great coordinator.
Right, and Jay Hill praises working for Kalani, which is important to have that level of confidence in your boss and knowing that he has it in you. And you've got a working situation there where Jay Hill says, nope, I don't want that job. And I'm going to stay right here. And I really appreciate the circumstance that I have. That's great. We know that Lavelle Edwards had that. We know that.
72-43. Just not good enough because there were 2 losing seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems like a
the first one was so
high,
long
crazy
ago
bar.
that it doesn't even count to me. I mean, it was in his second year, and the program has grown and matured so much. Plus, they were in Independence, which was so hard to recruit to.
Yes. And so when you look at that and you think, well, why do you have these really good seasons over here and then you got these 2 stinkers over here? The why to me is important. And for the reasons you point out, Independence, he didn't pick the coaches on the offensive side of the ball, and it went badly. Well, how'd you bounce back from it? Well, they bounced back well from it. And the next year they had a winning record. And then what happened in the next one? Well, it was the first year in the Big 12, which everyone said was going to be a tough transition, and they had a quarterback injury, and so 5-2 turned into 5-7. And they bounced back from it. They had a good year the next year. So
they had a great year.
Okay, they had a great year. You're right. So I look at those things and think, all right, nobody wins all the time, including the 2 guys who are 2 of the 3 longest tenured coaches in college football, who've obviously had awesome success, or they wouldn't be at the same school for 20 years. And it happens to them. Well, if it happens to them, why can't it happen to Kalani? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I think Garrett Armbrust should have considered all that.
Right? Get the intern.
Dang it, Garrett.
Let's get the intern there in Knoxville.
How dare you not have the perspective we demand?
We're giving him the most pub he's ever received.
He has no idea he's this big in Salt Lake right now.
I'm surprised nobody said, who is Garrett Armbrust?
Why? Well, because, the Jazz aren't in the NBA Finals. Because if they were, we wouldn't be talking about Garrett's list. Why did you see this list?
I don't know. It just came up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how
I didn't.
I don't know how this stuff works.
When I clicked on it last night, I was like, I don't know. Maybe somebody out there,
it came up.
Yeah.
I seen it. And I thought, oh, this is too good to be true. It's list by someone who's just starting out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was waiting for somebody to call me on it.
Lists are great and people love them, no matter what we get told.
I thought it was funny.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. He's a legend. And he will live on. That's next. Stay with us.